What's up, guys? Today we've got another home theater tour, except this one is going to be in my living room, which I think a lot of you guys can relate to rather than having my dedicated theater, which I know a lot of people probably don't have the budget for, or maybe you guys don't have a spare room big enough for a dedicated theater. This one I think is going to be more likely that you guys can fit in your own homes because this is essentially just my living room. My living room is really small. It's only about 12 feet from left to right width-wise, 12 feet. From front to back, depth-wise, we're looking at about 18 feet. And then height-wise, my ceilings, they're only 8 feet from the floor to the top. So I think this is pretty much kind of like a very small-ish living room. Ideally, I would like maybe to have width-wise, maybe like 20 feet, 20 by 20, I think would be a really nice size. But this is, this is what I'm working with here. So I'm trying to make do with what I've got and try to fit as much gear in here as possible without being overpowering. This is kind of like a dual purpose room. So not only is it kind of like my living room home theater, but it's also kind of my testing, reviewing space for 2-channel audio, which right now I am reviewing the Dali Buchardt LCRs. I did a little unboxing video a couple of weeks back, so if you missed that one, check it out. I did something a little bit different for that, for my usual stuff. Quick specs, I do have 3 of these in. These are LCRs, so you can get them. You could actually use these for all of your channels in your home theater. These have 2 6.5-inch mid-bass drivers in them. It's got a 2-inch ribbon tweeter, and then it's got a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. And this has a frequency response down to 49 hertz up to 34 kilohertz. So really nice high-end detail. And I have these in here again just so I can tell the audio quality for 2-channel audio. Because when you're reviewing speakers like this in your home theater and you've got a dozen speakers or half dozen speakers, 5 speakers, it's kind of hard to tell the timbre of each speaker or of the speakers in general. So when I am reviewing these speakers, I usually put these in and out because I don't really want to have speakers laying out in front of the TV where, if you walk into the room, you're going to be like, oh, you've got a bunch of speakers in here. So I try to keep this room as inconspicuous as possible. So you're only seeing these here temporarily just so I can do the 2-channel portion of my review. And if you have noticed, behind the speaker, these are the everyday speakers. These are the Martin Logan SLM-XLs. If there is one piece of gear that I've held on to since I've started my YouTube career, it's going to be these speakers. I think this is the only thing that I've had from the beginning of YouTube, which is about 7 years ago now. I know these aren't the best speakers in the world, but I do think they are one of the best very shallow mount speakers, on-wall speakers that you can get. And these don't cost a ton of money either. I think there's something like $750. But of course, since these are frequency limited, you will have to pair these up with a subwoofer, which you can see here. I have in the front left corner, this is the Buchardt S10. This is one of the shallowest subwoofers that I've ever used. And if you guys have been watching the channel for any duration of time, I have been on this little kick of trying to find really great sounding small subwoofers. And this definitely would go in the category of really great sounding subwoofers. The depth of the enclosure is only 6.5 inches deep, so you can put this right up against your wall. You can mount this horizontally like I have it here, you can mount it vertically, or if you want a special situation, you can lay it on its back and say you want to just put it under your couch or under your bed or something. You can also lay it on its back as well. This does have a 10-inch driver. The frequency response, I believe, goes down to 20 hertz. And I do have this in my living room because I'm going to do the review for these guys. I have 2 of them. I have the white one and the black one. I'm going to do the review for this in the living room just because it is smaller, and since it is so shallow, it is, even though it does go down to like 20 hertz, it is still kind of bass limited as far as digging down really deep. So I can already kind of push this to its limits in my living room, which again isn't the biggest living room. So if I was to put it in my home theater, it's not going to sound very good, even with 2 of them. So I'm going to use this in this room since it is the smaller room. And the cool thing about this is that it does have auto calibration. So if you want, you can pick up their microphone on their website, which I guess hooks up to your iOS or Android device, and you can use that within the app to calibrate the sub, auto calibrate the sub to your room. So that's really cool. I have, again, I have the black one and the white one. I'm eventually going to move the black one up front just so it blends in with the front wall better. And then I'm probably going to move this over to the back of the room. I don't think I mentioned as well, but I do have a matching center channel with the Martin Logan SLM XL right above the TV. And if you are really paying attention to it, you can kind of really locate that the sound is coming from above the TV. But you know, once you get kind of engaged in whatever you're watching, your mind kind of makes it sound like it's coming directly from the TV. So there's always that. And as far as like dispersion of the tweeter, it does have a dispersion pattern of 80 by 80. So whether you have this mounted horizontally or vertically, you will get the same dispersion wherever you are. So that's really handy, especially if you have a mounting situation such as this. And because these speakers are so thin, if you wanted to, say, put these guys behind your acoustically transparent screen, they are, like I said, only a couple of inches deep. So if you have an apartment or something where you can put in-wall speakers in, these I think would be the next best thing. And just to match these speakers over here, I do have the Martin Logan SLMs. So those are the XLs, these are the standard SLMs. So the only difference between these two speakers is that this does still have the two 4-inch drivers and then the two 4-inch passive radiators. The bigger ones have 4 passive radiators, so it's got 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Same size, you know, depth-wise, same size. They mount exactly the same as well. These ones don't go down to 100 hertz. These only go down to 110 hertz. So not that you're really going to tell the difference since you're going to be having these crossed over at like 100 hertz anyways over to the subwoofer. But, you know, just to keep the aesthetics nice and inconspicuous as possible, I think these are one of the best options out there. Now, as far as like room treatment in here, when we first moved in, you might be able to hear it in this video as well, but I still have a little bit of echo in here coming from my ceiling. So I'm not really willing to put any treatment on my ceiling, but I did get these wall panels from Tonin, either Tonin or Tonin. So I got these there. These are just the regular flat front ones, and then we have these guys here. I think these are their coconut husk ones. These ones have a little bit of a design to them, so I made sure I just alternated them, so it gives it a little bit of a design flair on the wall. And then for the opposite wall, which is this side here, I think a lot of people have windows in their living rooms. I have these blackout curtains. These will block out 100% of the light. I picked these up on Amazon. I think you can get a pair of these panels for something like 30 or 40 bucks. But these are 100% light blocking, and they have a little bit of weight to them. So whereas I have the absorption panels on the right side of the room, these curtains are thick enough where they can absorb a little bit of the high-end frequency as well. So it will get rid of that slap echo. Behind the curtain, I do have the Smart Wings power shades. So these actually get powered by solar. And by using the remote control, you can pick any point, you can stop it. And then if you look behind, I have what they call, I guess, the privacy shade, which is kind of like a lightly translucent shade, which blocks out something like 40% of light or something like that. But you can raise either the front one for 100% light blockage, or you can keep the privacy shade down. And of course, this also raises up as well if you want to get all of the light coming into your room. This also hooks up to your Amazon Alexa or your Google Home, so you can tell it to, you could say like, you know, Google drop the shades and it'll drop the shades. Since I have the Dali speakers up here, temporarily I do have the Stark Sound A3 3-channel amplifier, which is right now just powering the left and right front speakers here. You can use this to power your LCRs, and then you can probably pick up their Fiera 8, I think, if you want to run your surround channels. But this thing will put out something like 600 watts per channel. I'm probably going to drop this review probably like another week or so, maybe a couple days, because I have had this for a few months now. So I've been kind of putting it off because I've been using this as kind of my reference amplifier for 2-channel stuff. I have this stood up right now on some isoacoustic stands just to keep it off the floor. Behind the amplifier and speakers, I have this this LED floorboard. So this is a baseboard which has an LED strip in it, which you can change colors and all that stuff. So I can dim it if you want. You can change the colors. And this works off of Zigbee, I think it's Zigbee 3. So if you have a Philips Hue hub, this will pair up with your Hue lights, and you can change all the colors. You can integrate it with your Google Home, your Alexa account, whatever you want. So I've got that, and this baseboard is actually made out of aluminum. You can get this in a pack of 10. They're a little pricey. So a pack of 10, I think, comes to about 155 bucks. And I got these off of Amazon as well. I don't know if I'm gonna put the floor trim all around the entire perimeter of the wall, but right now I just put it up behind the TV just to give it a little bit of ambiance. And also for some backlighting when I'm shooting videos. Oh, and to control the lighting, I have the Philips Hue tap dial. So what this will do is you've got 4 different presets here, 4 different buttons, which you can assign to do different things. So this is button 1, this is button 2, this is button 3, and then I've got button 4, which will turn everything off. So you can pick a preset, and then on the outer edges of this is the dial, which you can rotate. So you can raise the brightness, or you can go the opposite direction, and then you can dim the lights all the way down or completely have them shut off. So this is definitely a must-have if you have Philips Hue in your house. This is the Philips Hue tap dial. Then of course the big thing in the room is the newest addition is going to be this bad boy right here. This is Sony's latest and greatest 98-inch. This is their biggest TV. I did a review on this. If you missed it, I put that up about 2 weeks ago now, but this is their replacement. Well, yeah, it's their replacement for the A90L, which was last year's 98-inch. This one moves away from the full array from the A90L, and then now we do get mini LED. So you get all of these different zones. It's got better backlighting control, of course. Blooming is down to a minimum. It still can bloom depending on what you're watching. So if you're watching something really dark scenes and you have a big bright spot on the TV, you can still get some blooming. It's not perfect, but it's still really good. And I'm coming from an A95K, an 85-inch, which I didn't think was going to be that big of a difference going from 85 to 98, but it's pretty sizable. This is actually the exact same size as the 16:9 screen that I had in the old apartment theater at my old place. So that's kind of crazy that we're getting sizes like this in TVs, and they're not like super expensive. This one is a little bit expensive. I think this is like 6,500 bucks, but you can get other models from like TCL and Hisense for under $2,000 at 98 inches or even 100 inches. So, and what's funny is that I've been watching a lot more TV in here, because usually with the 85-inch, I thought that was kind of big, but you know, you get used to it after a while. But 98 inches is almost basically projector size screen, like a small projector size screen. And the image quality is just so, sorry projector guys, so much better than a projector because it's just brighter, blacks are just better. This is the winner of a TV set. If you're looking for a 98-inch or 100-inch TV, check out the Sony. And then what I have hooked up to the Sony and also to the Martin Logan speakers, which, by the way, I'm not running Atmos in here. I've only got 5.1, so 3 across the front and then 2 side surround speakers. But what I have running those is downstairs beneath us, is the floor beneath us. It is the Sony AZ7000ES. It's their flagship receiver. I believe it's a 13.1 channel AVR. It's 8K compatible. It really doesn't matter because the TV is only 4K, but it is 8K compatible, or 4K 120, 8K 60. So if you guys are gamers out there, that receiver will handle that with no problems. And since I have everything hooked up through the HDMI eARC input, you can use the Sony's remote control to control whatever you have hooked up to it, such as the Apple TV. And by the way, if you are a Sony user or a Google TV user, Android can become a bit janky over time, whereas something like the Apple TV stays nice and fresh and typically always updated with the newest, latest and greatest streaming apps. And also with I believe with the newest iOS 26 update, they are going to be issuing a pass-through for audio. So instead of having the Apple TV decode your Atmos streams, it'll pass through and let your AVR processor pass through. So I believe that's coming pretty soon in a firmware update. And I also have hooked up to this an older Zidu Z9X. This is the last generation, which I think supported 3D. Unfortunately, this TV doesn't support 3D, but you can also use this remote control through HDMI CEC to control your Zidu media player as well. And of course, as far as seating, I've got the Valencia Naples. So I did a full review on these guys a couple of months back. I wanted to get some seats in the living room that had a very low profile, meaning that I wanted the backrest to be low profile. So from floor to the top of the headrest is only 37 inches, which means if I'm sitting down, I've got the surround channels here, which would hit my ears from the left or the right, rather than getting shot into the headrest. So for seats like the Tuscany seats, where it's got the big bulbous headrest that you can move up and down, this one doesn't have that. So that way you get the sound that reflects out of the back of the room, from the sides of the room, from the surround speakers, and just hits your ears all in the right places. So that's what I was looking for in these particular seats, for just a low profile seat, which is also, if you watch my my recent home theater upgrade video, I did a video on some low profile seats in my dedicated theater as well. So definitely check that out if you haven't watched it yet. But these are cool because usually I like leather seats, but I wanted something to try something a little bit different. These are actually black velour. So it's got that nice velour, smooth, soft feel to it. It's also got this very nice high polish gloss armrest. I could see where some people might be bothered by this, because if you're bothered by micro scratches and stuff like that, that could be an issue for you. But, you know, if you want to add a little bit of flair to your living room, this can definitely do that. Cup holder right here. If you have some kids, maybe this won't work out for you, because this doesn't sit really deep as far as seats, as far as your cup holder is concerned. So it kind of just like almost lays flat up on here. There's no tray insert, so this is more of a living room media type seat rather than a home theater seat. So I can understand why you might not want to have a tray sticking out in your living room. That might look a little bit goofy. So that's why they kind of kept this as minimal as possible and just kept it glossy, just to give it a nice kind of upscale luxury feel to it. And of course, you know, being a Valencia seat, it does have the controls on the inner side of the armrest, so you can kick back and recline. There's also a USB charging port as well. And then if you want, this has lumbar support, so you might be able to see that bulge out a little bit. So if you have back problems like I do, the lumbar support will definitely help you out in finding the most comfortable position in these seats, which you can get on pretty much all of Valencia's other reclining chairs, which is a really great feature that not a lot of theater chairs have. So that's it. That is the living room home theater tour. What do you guys have in your home theaters in your living room? Is it anything like mine, or do you have more speakers in your room? Leave your comments down below and let me know. If you guys want to pick up anything that I've mentioned in this video, I will leave some links down below in this video's description. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you again in the next video.